What is up, everybody? Mark on the mic here, joined by Mr. Dave Matheny from the Silencer Shop, and we're going to be covering some a little state of the suppressor industry / suppressor environment podcast here, and because there's some new developments and some things going on that we should all be aware of in the suppressor world. So, Dave, number one, thanks for joining us. It sounds like you're just hot off a trip right now, and you guys have a lot going on. But if you can, maybe give us high level, quick and dirty, as far as like, what is the Silencer Shop? What do you guys do? And what are the services that you offer?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's really two parts. We sell silencers through our website or through any one of our dealers. We have about 8,000 dealers around the country. Any dealers that are powered by Silencer Shop dealers is really going to be using us for their paperwork too. So we sell the silencers and we do the paperwork.
Gotcha. And I know we have one of your machines downstairs here at Vortex. I haven't used it yet myself, but I certainly intend to here at some point in the near future. It's pretty cut and dry. I mean, you guys simplify the process.
That's right. Yep, that is from the very beginning. That's been the goal. Make it as easy as possible to buy a suppressor.
What without going, I guess, too deep, but like, what does that process look like for a customer?
Realistically, step one, you just buy a silencer, right? Go into a dealer, check it out, buy the silencer, get it off our website. It's all kind of the same. Step two, go to one of our kiosks. That usually takes 5 to 10 minutes, and you only have to do it on the first purchase. Once you've gone through the kiosk, you're good, right? And then after that, I mean, it's pretty much just sign, essentially certify the forms and you're done. Certify those forms with ATF. Every year you have to update your photo, but that's kind of a side thing, and our system takes care of that too.
Okay, gotcha. Well, you are definitely, intimately involved, with suppressors and the suppressor industry. What is going on with the industry right now? Like, what is, any new regulations, things that are upcoming? I know we have some stuff around the first of the year that should be kicking off, but yeah, I mean, and maybe there's some stuff that I'm not even aware of.
Seriously, it has been a crazy couple of years. You think it was a year and a half ago, wait times dropped from 9 months to 2 or 3 days overnight, right? So, and right on the tail end of that, we start arguing about getting him out of the NFA completely, with the goal being the whole first half of the year was just focused on getting silencers out of the NFA. We wound up with a $0 tax, which is a move in the right direction, right? Which I know that doesn't satisfy the all or nothing crowd, but it gets us to a point where we have 2 routes now that are a lot easier, which is what we're focusing on. Route 1 is the lawsuit, which we've already filed, right? Basically arguing that this is no longer a legitimate tax and the NFA is now unconstitutional when it comes to SBRs, SBSs, silencers, and AOWs, right? The second prong of this attack is really legislation still. There are some omnibus bills coming through again next year, and it is a lot easier to throw these items into those new bills because now there's no offset. Every time Congress cuts spending on something or receives less in tax, they have to do the opposite in something else to make up for it. So now with silencers, SBRs, SBSs, all of these items, there's no offset. So it's a lot easier to get them into an omnibus bill.
And so I want to cover, if we can, what is an omnibus bill. But backing up a little bit, like you said, we didn't get everything that we wanted, but do we know why? Was it just didn't pass? It didn't get enough votes, or what was the why behind that part? And still being like, we're going to still keep these NFA items.
It really boiled down to the parliamentarian, and I think most people who are following this knew that. The frustrating part, the parliamentarian told everybody right from the beginning what this ruling was going to be. This was not a surprise, right? So my concern was we were going to get out the end of this, and the parliamentarian was going to rule how she had said all along, which we put a ton of pressure on everybody involved. Overrule the parliamentarian, change the parliamentarian's mind. There were a lot of options, but if she maintained that ruling, we needed to get something, and this $0 tax got us something. Right. I'm glad it turned out that way.
Gotcha. Yeah. In my head, I was like, okay, step in the right direction. I mean, sometimes, in the firearms industry or hunting, the death by 1,000 cuts can, work against us. And I guess I was
It
hoping
100% does.
I was hoping that this might be at least a little bit of us gaining some ground back, making a cut, and then I guess, hopefully getting to that point where these items are removed from the NFA. But is that a possibility at all, or is that just like not realistic?
No, I think that's completely realistic. In fact, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that it's highly likely silencers and all these other items will be out of the NFA by the end of Trump's term. Now, that's not a 100% guarantee, but I think it's better than 50-50. Between the lawsuit and, like I said, future legislation that's coming down the pipe, especially next year, that really could eliminate this, right? It'd be better to get rid of the NFA completely. It'd be nice to have that not even exist, even for machine guns. But and the reason I say that is, in the future, the Democrats could try to use the same process against us, where they just start throwing guns in to the NFA, like, oh man, semi-automatic weapons, AR-15s, make up something, right? In that sense, we were kind of protected against this because now there's precedent, right? They've ruled that can't be done, which is actually kind of a good outcome, and I think better than people probably realize.
Oh, I think that's a huge deal. Like you said, setting that precedent. I mean, you don't want it to ebb and flow and all of a sudden it's worse than where you started.
I know. Now we do have that to some extent now, because we knocked the tax stamp from 200 to 0. They could raise the tax stamp back up, right, using this exact same process. So we have set a precedent that could be done, but we've explicitly set a precedent that they cannot add things into NFA or remove things, but it can't go either way because that process can't be used. And that's part of the reason, man, we got to get these things out of NFA before we get to another point where Congress and the presidency are all controlled by Democrats, in which case, what do we wind up with? A $5,000 tax stamp? That would be just adjusting for inflation. It's almost $5,000 if you go from a $200 stamp in 1934.
Well, and that's what I was going to bring up when you said, oh, at some point the precedent has been set that you can raise the price. I'm like, that was in some ways the saving grace, because when that was implemented as what you're talking about right now, that was such a, extraordinary number, like really, unrealistic,
yes.
Right? It was like this pie in the sky thing, like, oh, we'll make it $200. That basically, says, yeah, you can do this, but you can't do this sort of thing. But you raise it to $5,000, and then now you're really back where you started.
Yeah. That would be absolute worst case scenario at this point, right? Them adding new firearms types is really off the table now, thankfully. But because that's what they've wanted for years, right? They were actually working towards getting other firearms types into NFA, which can still be done, but not through reconciliation. So we cut off the easiest avenue to add them back in.
Gotcha. And what is, you said the word, and I'm hopefully I say it correctly, omnibus bill?
Yeah, and when I say that, I really am talking about a big bill where there's a ton of things that just has to pass. And we're looking at the defense bill next year, the defense authorization spending bill. I think that's going to be a good vehicle to just kind of slide this in there, since there's no offset. I think there's a decent chance that we can get it through.
And then by getting it through, are you guys talking about, does that pertain to your lawsuit, or?
It's two separate things, two separate approaches to the exact same problem. Getting these items out of NFA. That is the goal, right? And getting it done really as quickly as possible.
Okay, gotcha. So one would be just, through the bill, and then the other is through the lawsuit that you guys have filed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll go both directions at the same time.
Perfect. Diversifying. I like it.
That's right.
Multi-pronged approach. Well, if you can, tell us about the lawsuit, who's a part of it, the why behind it, and I guess where it's at. Maybe, if people aren't aware of it, can they get involved? What's going on with this thing?
Yeah. So the lawsuit, it's filed in Texas. It's it's still in that kind of pending state where there hasn't been a whole lot of movement. We're waiting for, assignment of judge, DOJ, how they're going to approach it. There's a chance DOJ won't even like argue against us in this scenario with this administration. If that happens, that could speed things up, although we're still talking probably 2 or 3 years before we see anything concrete out of it, even in a best case scenario. It's we had a whole slew of states joined us, led by Texas, but there were quite a few states joined the lawsuit, which did slow it down a little bit because we essentially, when you amend it, that kind of restarts the clock on judge assignment and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's worth it. You get those states in there, that adds a lot of validity to the lawsuit, right? But yeah, we're really focused on this issue of the unconstitutionality of a $0 tax, which the courts have previously ruled is you can't have a $0 tax or a tax that collects no revenue if you're going to use it to regulate something, right? You just can't do that. So that's our main argument.
I mean, it does seem counterintuitive.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. As far as support for it, I mean, if you visit silencershopfoundation.org, that's you can go there, you can place a donate, you can make a donation. That goes 100%. Everything we collect for that foundation, there's no overhead. Silencer Shop pays all the overhead. The foundation then uses all the money to support these causes.
Wow.
So you either buy from Silencer Shop and just round your purchase up, or go to the foundation, make a donation directly. Either way, it'll go to support the two main causes. It'll go to support are this lawsuit, and secondarily, there's a whole slew of states. I believe it's currently 14 states that are very likely that those states will become illegal to own suppressors if we succeed through either avenue. So while we're pushing forward with this, we're actually trying to fix these 14 states, right? Because that's a pretty big deal. I mean, we lose Georgia, right? Everybody in Georgia can't own a silencer anymore. That would be really crappy. So there's a whole slew of states just like that. Colorado, Oregon, North Dakota, Montana, Alaska, some big states.
And why would they lose the ability to own a suppressor?
Because right now, the way the laws are written in these states, and I'm going to kind of condense them all into I'm going to generalize a little bit, but the laws are written saying silencers are illegal, but if you have them registered under the NFA, that's fine. So if the registration under the NFA part goes away, the silencers are illegal is the only thing that's left in the law, which causes a real problem, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we got to get these fixed. Right. And I don't think anybody was even really aware, at least I wasn't, that this, it's funny because we were involved in the Texas changing this statute. We had a similar thing in Texas that got changed 10 years ago or so, fixed it. And in my mind, I thought, man, that's awesome. We fixed it in Texas. Surely there aren't any more. It didn't even dawn on me that there would be other states like this.
I mean, to me, it's such it's like a semantics. It's just rewriting the language a little bit. It seems so simple. How difficult of a task is it to get that language rewritten so it does, I guess, fit the spirit of probably how it was intended in the first place?
Yeah, that's right. And I think a lot of every state's going to be a little bit different, which is what makes this kind of a difficult problem, right? But the gist of it is, you can leave the language almost completely intact, but say, silencers are illegal if you want to leave that in there, or take it out. But if you leave the silencers are illegal part, then you say unless they are compliant with federal law, something along those lines. Take out the registered by the NFA. As long as they're compliant by federal law, we're good, right? So that's kind of the main direction we're going with this.
Gotcha. Man, for such a cool piece of kit that protects, that's just essentially hearing protection.
Right.
We are just riddled with, roadblocks and challenges, and it's just it's always it's always just so interesting to me.
You guys also make awesome metal tubes that are a good rifle accessory. I mean, it's just a gun accessory, right? But we're regulated so crazily.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's interesting. So you say like likely a couple years then, w- and so it's kind of it's still in its beginning stages because yeah, like you said, you more states have jumped on. That's a good thing. Gives it more weight, more validity, but resets the clock, which is like that's a bummer. But um, the $0 tax stamp, which I said like that's just doesn't seem to make sense mentally. That does kick off on Jan 1.
That's right.
So for people who are, I'm raising my hand here going, you know what? Yeah, I do want to get a suppressor. Maybe I want to take advantage of, the $0 tax. Where does that put them now with like ordering a suppressor and then, maybe waiting? Can you do that, or
Yeah,
what's going on there?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So they're really for people who are looking to buy now, there are a lot of suppressors where the manufacturers are comping the tax stamp. So it kind of puts you into you're getting all the benefits, but you're doing it this year, right? You're getting ahead of the rush. Alternatively, you can buy now and in our system, just mark, I'd prefer to wait. And your stuff will all queue up. It'll all be ready to go on January. I think it's actually January 2nd will be the first day.
Okay,
On
gotcha.
January 2nd, you'll automatically go into the queue for certification. Do keep in mind that there are going to be several months worth of people purchasing that are trying to submit on the same day. So, so I suspect that will not go super smoothly. That's just a guess. But I know ATF is working to get their system to where it'll handle that volume. And I think even though there will be a spike of volume, because you'll have literally 2 or 3 months of submissions packed into probably over the course of a week or so. But once they get through that, I think we're going to go right back to fast wait times and no tax. I think it's going to be kind of a golden age of suppressors up until we get a full HPA, which will be the true golden age of suppressors.
Yeah. So with the HPA, I mean, golly, I mean, I've been hearing about that, referred to that for 10 years. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been 10 years. Yeah, 2015, I believe, is when it was first pushed.
Okay.
Might have even been 2014.
And I feel like it's like this sinusoidal curve of like, I hear about the HPA and then I don't hear about it for, a while, and then boom, here it's back again and it's gone. So where are we at with that specific thing? Or is it just kind of like this nebulous thing that just comes and goes?
Yeah, I will say, as far as, and this is a little bit unfortunate, this is the way it was messaged with the big beautiful bill. Everybody talks about the HPA, and there's actually language in the HPA, the law, that says, because the law itself, they were aware of this problem of states, we're going to lose states, right? So there's language in that law that says this statute will serve as being in compliance with the NFA, right? So then they were trying to override all these state laws through the HPA. That's why we're continuing to push for a full HPA. The problem with the way it was put in the big beautiful bill, because once again, the parliamentarian at the very beginning of the process, back in December, January, she came out and said the HPA doesn't fly. It can't go through this process because of how this process works, right? So instead, they everybody knocked the HPA out, and they're like, okay, plan B is we're just going to strike the word silencer from the NFA. So everybody said HPA still, but it was never really HPA. It was literally just striking the word silencer. Now, the good part of that is we got silencers, SBRs. So we did get a tax reduction, but we got more than just silencers, right? So in some ways, it was a big win. In other ways, it was disappointing. But if we can push the full HPA through legislation next year, that is kind of a best case.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah, that is an absolute best case. The one thing that crossed my mind, and I guess, I'm going back to when I said like, oh, maybe, this is a positive step and can hopefully lead to other things as well. But because we're not going to have that tax revenue coming in from all these NFA items, Like, to me, it'd be like if I was paying a bunch of employees to not make a product, that wouldn't make sense to me. So,
Okay, yeah, you're talking about government.
yes.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, and I think a lot of people assume that $200 tax went towards supporting the processing somehow, right? But it never has. It actually went directly to the general fund, and the ATF is actually funded just like any other agency from the general fund. It's not used as an offset. It wasn't used as a, hey, you guys pulled in $1 million this year, so now you get $1 million. It was never like that, right? In fact, you look at they really are. They're spending way more than they pull in already, probably like every other agency, right? I mean, seriously.
Possibly not a model of efficiency.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting because I guess mentally, that's one way I was thinking about it was even if it was going into something like the general fund, at least, there is like an offset of like you've got these employees and these processes and overhead, whatever these things are, but at least you're bringing in some revenue to cover some of it. But now you're not at all.
And what you're describing has not been done, and this kind of illustrates how bad the NFA is, right? The Democrats, the next time they completely have control, and it probably is fair to say the Democrats, but I mean the anti-gun crowd, right? The next time they're completely in control of everything, they could actually come out and say this tax revenue was an offsetting expense, even though it's never been used that way. It is an offsetting expense. So because you pulled that revenue out, we no longer have the offsetting expense. So we're going to defund NFA form processing, right? That just goes to illustrate why that is one reason why the NFA is such a bad thing for Americans, right? We shouldn't be taxed on these things. They shouldn't be registered. And we shouldn't give the government the power to tell us just almost willy-nilly that we either A, can't have them at all, or B, you have to wait some random period of time to get it.
Oh yeah, I mean, hashtag agree on all of that. Yeah, it's to me the whole thing is completely it's asinine, really. But alas, here we are. But thank goodness we have folks like you in the fight, in the trenches, even making sense of all this stuff. As I sit here and I'm asking you questions, and I would consider myself probably more, like at least more involved or more aware than like just your average person, but just by the nature of the people who I'm surrounded with or by, and the products that we produce. Like you're in that industry, you're in the culture, and frankly, it's still confusing and a lot to unpack.
It is. Seriously, I learned more about reconciliation this year than I ever thought I would know. It's like, I'm not sure I wanted to know it.
Yeah, you're like, I didn't sign up to be a lawyer, but apparently here I am, or at least having a good understanding of it. Which, I mean, hey, that's not a bad thing at all. But well, what is there anything else going on that folks might be interested in, or want to be aware of, or new things to navigate the process, or anything in that regard?
Right now, I think, other than the tax, not a whole lot is changing right now. I think ATF, I think they've got a lot of ideas to simplify things. I think that's great, good. Hopefully they can pull some of that stuff off. But I think right now it's their heads down on beginning of January, we got to handle this volume, right? And we sort of want them focused on that right now. We don't want to go back to 9-month wait times. At least I don't. That was horrible. It's worse than the tax, right? So it's we got to keep these wait times down.
Gotcha. Yeah, regarding products, any new products or anything that you're excited about there, or things that you've seen that are innovative?
There's been so much cool stuff come out lately. And I tell you, there's some really cool stuff coming out just right around the corner. So we can't really talk about because we're kind of in that window. But you've got products hitting new performance points that I didn't realize would even be possible with some of this 3D printing, new price points that even with all the inflation we've had, super competitive price wise. There's just some great stuff out there on the market right now. Mounting systems have improved. Honestly, I can't even believe how much mounting systems have improved since I've gotten into this business. When I got in, it was like, if you have a quick attach, just kiss accuracy goodbye, right? And that is just not the case anymore, right? In fact, I think it's exactly the opposite. You lock it on there and they stay put and you're good to go, right? I actually really like them. So yeah, there's been a lot of advance.
I mean, and that's interesting to think about too, because, with all these things, like whether it's, written content or, podcast content, you come up with, you may have been giving recommendations like, this is kind of like this hard and fast rule. Like if you're looking for supreme accuracy, go this route. If you just taking the quick attach for as an example, like you're like, well, this is really convenient and you can do X, Y, Z with it, but accuracy might suffer. It's like you almost have to rewrite the book a little bit.
You really do. I mean, technology has advanced a lot in the last 20 years. It really has. So in a great way. And I remember several times thinking, okay, performance has peaked. It's not going to get any better. And then a couple of years later, tubeless cans, right? Now 3D printing. It's like they're constantly pushing the boundaries and the stuff's getting better and better. So I'm no longer going to say that technology has peaked. I just don't think that's a thing yet.
Well, that's good. That's super cool. I like it, man. I like it. With some of the stuff, how do they, if they want to go check it out and see what's available out there, where can they do that with you?
Silencershop.com. So pretty much every major product in this industry is on that website. We've got it all ranked and customer reviews. And that's where everything is at.
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, Dave, I am out of ammo as far as questions regarding kind of our state of the suppressor industry and regulations update. Any final thoughts?
No, I think you covered everything.
All right, then. Cool. Perfect. Well, thanks everybody for listening. You probably can listen due in part because you own a suppressor. So, I'm well on my path, Dave. I want to let you know I've been neglectful in getting my own suppressor, and
you got to go down and use that kiosk. Get one ordered.
I'm embarrassed to admit it, but luckily the podcast listenership has put enough pressure on me that I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm embarrassed. The problem is though, or part of my problem is like a lot of the shooting that I do is at work. And so we can just, you can just use suppressors here at work and then,
that's right.
And off we go. So it's not that I'm anti. I have been using them. I love them. Every time I use them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get one of these for myself. And I will be doing that here in the very near future, rest assured. And so, hopefully I'll be using your machine here sooner than later. But yes, like I said, long-winded to say, thanks everybody for listening. If you want to check out your next suppressor, check out the Silencer Shop. Until next time, we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.